Let's slide on in here, shan't we? Welcome to another video of another day of another time. Today, we're going to be talking about a Forbes article called "Should Critics Include or Ignore Bugs in Reviews of Games Like Jedi Survival?" Now, as somebody who does reviews and criticizes and gives my opinion on video games, I have to say I found this article quite terrifying and horrible in some of the implications it brought up. Now, I will say this will be the first time I've read the entire article in its entirety, so some of this will be my off the top of my head thinking without, but some of the stuff I already know, obviously, because this thing like fucking went all over the internet when it came out. Anyway, so this is a senior contributor at Forbes. So they say there was currently a lot of grumbling going on about Star Wars Jedi Survival, a game that by all accounts is quite good, but marred by a number of bugs and performance issues that appear across all platforms, but are especially bad on PC. Digital Foundry called the worst PC port of the year and said it shouldn't even be on sale. Honestly, I feel like when a game is in these kind of conditions, it needs to be obviously fucking delayed, because it is just terrible for these games to come out like this. And it's even more shocking how some of them will sell very successfully. And that's very sad to me. But anyway, moving on. This has caused a separate side controversy, however, as I've seen a number of people question why the game has an 86 on Metacritic. Most people who know me know I don't care for Metacritic much, and we will probably go into some of that stuff during this. A really good score despite all these issues. How can critics be trusted given that kind of score to a game with this many problems? And then he goes on about saying, sigh, as a critic, it is very, very complicated. No, it's not complicated. You review the product, you talk about your experience, the good, the bad, and things you thought about it, and give an idea whether person should spend money on it or how much money you should spend on it or something like that. Not very complicated at all, actually. But anyway, in the case of Jedi Survival, things are being twisted a bit. The vast majority of the reviews are on the PS5 version of the game, which has that 86. There are 90 reviews there. And PS5, while still having some issues, is the platform where the game appears to be winning the best, better than PC, and potentially even better than Xbox. So that's one factor, as that's where most codes were given out. Codes. Because, physical products don't exist anymore in a universe that wants to encourage the whole you don't own anything mentality. So thank you for acknowledging anyone who bought the game physically, by the way. I did ask for a PC code. Now, to be fair, though, could also just be strictly referring to people who got free handouts to make reviews on prior to when I think about secondly. So that might be what he means. Maybe I was a little harsh on that. Because, my brain processed it for a second, and it's like, well, it could be just strictly talking about the reviewers who got free handout codes. But anyway. Because, to be fair, usually they're lucky to get free physical stuff, unless it's like a limited edition or something these days, to be honest. I did ask for a PC code, and I got one. So I don't think those were being purposely restricted, but the PC version of the game has a 78, much lower. Not that much lower, though. I mean, 78 still above a fucking middle-low average of 60 if you're going by a, middle of the number. And then if you're going by school average, that's a different thing now. But, and, that's a whole separate debate there. Based on the 16 reviews, where its performance seems to have been taken more into consideration. This is a damned if you do or don't situation for critics. How's it a damned if you do or don't? You fucking just make your review. Now, of course, here's the problem with these kind of quits, though. They're concerned that if they tell the truth, they're no longer get free codes. And to be fair, that happens. But, you know, if you, like, where you said in this article how people are to trust you by telling the fucking truth. Like, saying shit like this, you're always, like, flushing down the toilet for me. Like, if you're not going to tell me the truth, why am I going to consider your opinion? Anyway, let's continue on. Might have something we can maybe agree on here or that. The most famous example I can remember of this is when IGN's Dan Stapleton hit a game-breaking bug in Prey. Even working with the developers, he couldn't fix it and ultimately decided to give the game a 4 out of 10. Later, after playing a fixed copy, he updated the score to an 8 out of 10, but the 4 had already been fed into Metacritic. Too much controversy. He got yelled at a whole bunch. Oh, gasp. Fanboys, everyone. Bill, watch out. They're the, just like protesters and people who fucking have to have hot takes on the fucking Twitter. You gotta watch out for those admittedly, fanboys are freaking, sometimes they can get way too heated and shit. And sadly, those are the kind of people I feel like that feed the wrong side of this kind of shit. When a game needs more time to bake so it can come out in a competent manner, those are the kind of people you see going like, we want now. It's like, what bake some more? Sure, infinite time can't fix a horrible thing, but, because, there's also too long development where it's clearly something else is wrong than simply time. So, that's not always a simple solution either. But, if it's a game just has bugs and it needs some more time to get that panned out, I think more time's good. But, you get those people who are always the opposite of that kind of stuff and that. And, yeah, I can believe that. I've seen lots of people bitch about really stupid things and stuff. So, I could totally see there being a group of people bitch about that. Because, the same thing happened to, like, Zelda Breath of the Wild. Anyone who dare talk to anything remotely negative about it and didn't praise it to the high heavens got bitched at by fanboys and shit. So that only exists. But you shouldn't be letting you are supposed to be a fucking journalist. You're not in the quote unquote prestige position. So why are you letting a bunch of internet trolls basically fucking dictate your job? Anyway, moving on. The gut reaction from players, I think, is if the game is buggy and performs badly, why wouldn't you include that in the review score? Well, duh! Especially for people who don't have fucking internet to update physical versions. Or, even better, in the day and age when you won't be able to access that fucking patch down the road. Which will make your review really pointless for people getting that media. Of course, you don't really care because you're not really likely profiting anymore on your webpage at that point in time, likely from it being on your website. So, yeah. Anyway. But it's such a weird situation these days because reviewers are often reviewing before a day 0 1 patch that can fix many of these issues. In fact, Jedi Survivor was performing even worse on PC before that. And B, if it's instead a week or a month when things are fixed instead, your review becomes pretty irrelevant if you spend large chunks complaining about problems that no longer exist, and your score ends up significantly lower because of that. Here, this is a part I already knew about. So, here's my thoughts on this. So, there is a debate to be made on whether, like they talked about updating the score and stuff. There's a debate to be made whether you should re-review, patches and stuff. Realistically, a lot of us don't have time to, continuously, okay, it's been a year, let pop that one game I did a review on, see if it got the patch and fix the problems I have with it. Realistically, a lot of us don't have that time to do that, And that's why usually in that kind of scenario, you're wanting to likely, check out someone's review that's more modern versus like when the titles say launched or that. So, in that kind of regards, that's probably the better bit in that. But obviously, if somebody feels like they have the time to update things like that, I think that can be good information, obviously, that. But I still think there's relevance, obviously, in still having the base product reviewed as is, because like I said, there are people who buy physical things, there are people who don't have internet access. You can bitch and moan how few people that might be, but they exist, they are out there, and that information is useful for them. And again, there's also down the road when there will be a day and age where these will no longer be able to be patched anymore legitimately without hacking and having these files pre-existing through other means and that, because one day this shit won't exist. I solely believe that because, you know, we always went through Sony always trying to shut down some of the old platforms. I used to praise Sony all the time for being one of the few console people who have kept all those stores up, and now we're going through this wishy-washy era where PSP is barely hanging on by a string, and Vita and PS3 are hanging on just because people bitched and moaned when they said they were going to get rid of them. And then there was a recent thing with the 360 where there were subtle hints at possibly Microsoft looking into that. And people reacted immediately negative to that. And Microsoft put out a statement saying nothing's going on there. This was a bug error or some shit like that. So right now, you know, things are still kind of holding up on those, but with Nintendo, you know, it's still been a sinking ship every fucking console. You know, we just lost the 3DS and Wii U, so now there's only the fucking Switch now. The Switch is all that exists now in Nintendo's digital realm of graveyards. So, obviously, like, for example, if you played all your Wii U or the very few Wii titles that had patches or any 3DS stuff that had patches, you know, now that stuff's kind of going to become more on the wayside. It's not going to become as useful because other than in legitimate means, which I'm sure people will have, backed up versions of patches and ways of putting them on your console through like modding and stuff. But the point is, the average person is likely not going to ever really get to use that. So there is still use for information of what the base version is. So, you know, review the fucking version you got, and then if you want to update it with more shit about like the patch and stuff, or if you feel like you need to be like, say like, you know, these were the negative experiences, but keep in mind I'm playing a build before the retail release, so these might not exist and stuff. Like, you know, like it just said, you know, complaining about problems that no longer exist, but the problem is you're assuming those problems won't exist. You don't have any guarantee those problems won't exist. So that's where you get shit that's super broken that comes out. I mean, if you're going into your review and you look at bugs and shit, and your thoughts are, well, this will mostly be fixed, so I probably shouldn't really care or bring it up or have it affect my score. You're doing your job wrong. Very, 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 very wrong. And, yeah, I think you should maybe reconsider how you're doing things. But, yeah, moving on. A review score should reflect the content of a game. I'm not going to debate points from a review of a TV show because Netflix was glitching for everyone for 48 hours due to server problems. That is stupid. Because you're obviously not, like, here's the problem with that. You're trying to conflate an issue that has nothing to do with the product as a part of the review. You know, if I pop in the game and it doesn't work, the game is broken. You know, if I turn on a streaming service and the show won't run, that's the streaming service being messed up. You know, that's like having a broken PS4, you put the game in and you blame the game because the PS4 is broken. You know, blaming something in the between sounds like a really lame, how should I say, way to try and make an argument on this. Like, That's not a sound argument. It is what you played was the state of the game at the time. Sure, it might have patches that fix it, but that's not your job. Your job is to talk about the product you played. It's not your job to protect the company. Unless, you happen to have higher interests about free stuff or something, Journalists wouldn't care about that, though, would they? Oh, wouldn't they? Anyway, it's not a perfect analogy. Words. It's not. What is it? It's not a perfect comparison, but that's something. But that's sometimes how it feels to be asked to cut points for technical problems that 95% of the players will probably never experience if fixed quickly. Again, you're assuming they will be fixed. There are lots of games that don't get good fixes. Some games that don't even get fixes. Like, you're assuming things, which is not a good thing to really do when you're making a review, because it sounds more like instead of putting proper information out there, you just want to be very offhand about it, and that's pretty concerning to me, honestly. But you can certainly mention that you've encountered performance problems. It's only more like you should. I mean, I'm not really understanding how this is just being kind of like being backhanded as like just a minor thing. But I would not spend large portion of a review going through them. If the problems are so bad that it's hampering your enjoyment in the game, I did indeed stop playing the PC copy of Jedi Survival because of that, I would hold off on a review. And I actually would like to know, I actually looked up this guy, because I don't really know most of these people or follow any of those shit over a long time. So this guy has done, I think, like, it was 40-something reviews as far as I could tell. And they date back to, like, 2013 as far as I could tell. Now, that's pretty rich history of time, but, like, 40-something reviews. Like I've done over 200-something. Now I'm not saying I'm some expert professional at every single video I've made, and especially, of course, like I'm reaching through like all of my YouTube channel basically to come up with that number. I mean, if you just consider more recent ones, that would consider more better. I would say it's more like 160 more like it. But I mean, like, total wise, though, I have over 200, but that just that kind of winged me as odd. And some of them didn't even have scores. Some of them were just opinion pieces without a score for whatever reason. Now, I didn't read all his reviews and stuff, but I did take a general glance at them. And to be fair, I didn't really see any that popped out as horrible. Anything that seemed like super questionable, so I'll give him that. So, no call out on you, but I do have to say that you don't have. It's not that you haven't been in the industry a long time. It's that you haven't made a lot of content review-wise, at least. Maybe you do more articles like this. Maybe again, I don't really know much about this guy or anything. So, but yeah. But, yeah, I mean, that's one way you could do it, though, to be fair. If you don't feel like you have the proper way to talk about the launch version, you could just hold off and get it later. I mean, to be fair, that's what some people do just to experience a better build of the game, because they're not concerned about the launch or the preserving of the game. They just want to have more funnel experience, so they may wait for patches and stuff, and there was only an audience to do that. So as a reviewer, I could understand someone maybe just wanting the better reviewing experience. But of course, if you're into that sweet money and that not point clicks, but the click and bait and that, you need to get that review out fast. So to be fair, most journalists in these fields aren't going to really likely do that because that would demand them to take time, which, as we described in the last video I did, is not a thing journalists are very good at anymore. Oh boy. I would instead write an article about those performance problems, but I'm not going to merge my eventual scored review with that. Well, that sounds like a pretty awful job then. Again, that sounds like you're ignoring things for the sake of the company. Like, this comes off as, oh, I'm scared of saying bad things about big company because then they won't give me free shit anymore. That's what it sounds like to me. You know, like in the last video, a lot of people gave Kotaku shit for doing articles on the Zelda leaks. And like I said, on one hand, looking at Kotaku, it's like, well, and you ask why Nintendo has blacklisted you. I agree with that part. But they did have every right to cover those leaks, because it's news. They do have every right to cover those leaks. But as some Twitter people would tell you sometimes, there are sometimes consequences for the things you do. So, but there was also your moral standing and values in something as well. So I mean, if you're conflating free products and shit and perks and stuff over giving a decent review, I don't think you're doing your job well, and I don't think you care about your audience very much. But again, that's just my subjective opinion on that. So moving on, where was I here? As writers, we have to care less about hitting embargoes when the situation simply doesn't allow for that. But the industry can be pushing in a regard as everyone hurts for clicks, and publishers often think it's weird if you miss embargoes for early copies they given you, even if you're just trying to give the game more time. Okay, that last point, I'll give a fair point. If I was a company and, I gave you a review copy and then it's been like 3 months after the game came out, I guess I could understand maybe thinking a little bit about, like, why is it taking so long for them to put a review out? I would say, like, a month is probably a good amount of time for that, I think, in that regards. But again, it would also depend on the person. Like, if it's a solo YouTuber, that might be a lot more trickier, but like a quote-unquote company with multiple people in the staff of that, I think a month would probably be a reasonable amount of time. But again, that's me. But I can understand with that. I can give you a little understanding on that, because, I would imagine, on one hand, they would want you to put a review out to a certain degree. But then again, you could also make the same point when the game is like a piece of trash, like, say, like Leo for the PS3, that was a dumpster fire when it was coming out of that. Some people might be like, no, don't, no, just no, just lose the code somewhere, don't. So, you could make that kind of argument, too, because, some companies might just prefer you not to at that point if they know the game's garbage for the early. So, yeah, It is perfectly fine for consumers to be skeptical about new releases. Okay, that's fine. Given the state of things. Especially, no review is ever demanding you to buy a game day one. Well, I mean, they can demand it. They can't force you, obviously. But, I wouldn't necessarily say none. I mean, I've certainly told people they should buy something. Demanding it, but when I think a game's really good, it's like, you should really buy this game, then. Especially if it's your cup of tea or that. But, that's what publisher marketing departments are for. And yeah, to be fair, that's a job to get you to want to throw that money down. You're there to, help in that decision. Not make that decision, but help make that decision by giving information they can use to make a buyer's choice. But yes, listen for performance issues and separate them from reviews that try to produce scores based on just the content. What? Wait. But yes, listen for performance issues and separate them from reviews that try to produce scores based just on the content. For detailed breakdowns of what exactly is screwed up with the game performance-wise, well, that's why Digital Foundry is so popular. Separate what? So we should take out Sonic 06 and separate all the bugs and stuff from the final product. Is what you're telling me. Because that's stupid. We should take all the bugs and horrible performance that Fallout 76 had and just remove them from the review score. Like, because that's how I'm reading this. Maybe I'm insane and not reading this way, but that's what it sounds like you're saying to me. And that sounds absolutely fucking stupid. Stupid as fuck. I understand, we live in an age where things can get fixed easier, but we also live in an age where shit is being released in a Warsaw state. And I think it's all the more important to talk about this shit. Because one, again, as you said earlier in your article, you're basically assuming most of this shit will be fixed. But certainly is not the case all the time. Sure, some of these issues do get fixed. But other times, many of them either stick around for a long time or never get fucking fixed or addressed. So, I mean, it's like, here's a good example. So, the original Borderlands. Now, this is on PS3 for me. This is deep lore why I really have a low opinion of Borderlands 1, or one of the bigger reasons. So, Borderlands 1 had a horrible online bug that could corrupt your save data that, as far as I know, was never fucking fixed. And on top of that, one of its DLC storylines about some general guy's vault thing, fortress or some shit, it has these 2 times you can go through it for really good loot. One time is after you finish the story, and then there's like a 1-up time you can do it. And when you play co-op with people, it adds people's quests to your log, even if you're not to that point. So if you get in a situation where you get both of those at the same time, you're presented with 2 buttons. And if you push the second quest's button before the first one, you can permanently be locked out from finishing the storyline, the DLC storyline. And as far as I know, that's never been fixed either. Those seem like pretty crucial and horrific things to have in your game, in my opinion. Especially since I experienced both of them. I had to start a new character, and I experienced the DLC thing, and had to redo all of that too. Delightful. Yes. So what you're saying is I should take those and throw them to the side because I should assume they'll get fixed. Fuck you. That's bullshit. You should cover that shit. You can throw out there, hopefully this stuff will be fixed or stuff, or like if it doesn't exist after a month or something, after a patch or something, then now I have a much better opinion of it. But that just sounds so illegitimate to just not want to talk about. It sounds like bullshit to me. Let's go on. Again, there is no perfect solution. I can agree with that. There is no perfect solution because everyone has their opinion on how something is done. Is the bigger problem, really. It's really how you want your research and you'll go about looking into games. Metacritic exists solely because of people who basically don't really want to do research. They just want to see a giant number that says good or bad. It's a quick way to, quote-unquote, get an idea of the quality of a game. And an all more concerning one when you see shit like this that gets applied, this logic applied to people who get to dictate that score on Metacritic. So, very concerning. But yeah, that's why I don't like MetaQuick, because I want at least some information, not just, I guess. I certainly don't agree with a lot of Metacritic scores a lot of times, both usual and quick ones, because they can vary vastly from game to game, and that's why, like, when I make a review, I don't like to be like, I'm telling you whether you should or shouldn't get the game. I try to go into it with a mindset of trying to believe there was an audience for the game I'm reviewing, and tell you what I think is good and bad about it towards that audience, and have maybe some of my personal preferences and experiences reflect in that. But generally, I want to discuss about said product to the people who are likely going to be interested in it, and maybe I can also talk about whether I think it might be good or bad for the type of people who might actually, like if it's like a good beginner or too hard or something like. But I don't really make a review with the intent of saying no or yes to buying the game, which is why I made the value system that I use now. Because I don't want to necessarily tell you yay or nay. I want to tell you what I think of the game for the people who will likely be the audience for the game, and how much I think that game should be worth to you, and that should give you an idea whether, like, for example, if there's a $60 game and I think it's worth more $30, I'm basically telling you to wait for a sale. I think the game is worth that amount of money and experience. Because I think most games can be worth something to most people. There's always a fan of something. So, but obviously, the more better it is, the more I think it's worth, obviously. So, for example, like Undertale, I would give Undertale like $15 worth, which anyone who knows, Undertale is a $9.99 game. So that means I actually think it's worth more than what it's selling for. Thus, it speaks that I actually think it is a really good game. So that's kind of like how my value system works. I'm not there to tell, because I don't think it's a reviewer's job to tell you whether you should or shouldn't be getting a game. They should be informing you of information whether you want to be purchasing this game or not. Obviously, if they had bad experiences, they should be telling you those experiences to help you make that informed decision. But I don't like people who generally are trying to tell you whether you should or shouldn't, instead of presenting information and things to you to help you make that informed decision for yourself on whether that game is going to be more your cup of tea or not. Obviously, that's not always easy for everyone, especially people without an extensive gaming history, because obviously some of us who've played games for a long time can have that. We can do that easier. Well, maybe, you might be watching a review for a game. It's going to be the third video game you might ever play. That might be kind of harder to convey, but still, you're supposed to be helping inform people whether this is a purchase or not that they'll be interested in, and not telling them whether they should or shouldn't buy it. But again, that's just my thoughts on reviewing in general. But critics will be criticized either way. Yes, they will. Because there will be people who will defend or hate you for like I said, with like Breath of the Wild. There will be people who will critical about it. Personally, I don't think I'm gonna like Breath of the Wild when I play it. But hey, I have to play it first to really come to that conclusion. But I come to that because it's open world aspect. If done right, it could be fantastic. If done wrong, I will probably dread it. But and that is something a lot of people did criticize about the open world thing, which is why I came more to that conclusion and feel in that aspect. But yeah, there were people who attacked them over that kind of things and that. And, obviously those critics who get criticized for saying stupid things like this. Audience will feel misled either way by critics or by the publishers themselves. Oh boy, do we not have a history of that kind of shit. I mean, we already had a conversation about E3 about stuff like that, did we not? Games will continue to launch in various states of being broken and needing to be patched over time. I would like to add and possibly have revised physical versions, please. Can we get those again? Because, you know, as much as it's been nice, we've been getting limited companies to do that lately. It would be nice to get that kind of thing happening more often in the actual retail market outside those. Which there was one recently. It was like a first-person dungeon crawler. What was it called? I can't remember. I got. It has like a very like. Damn it, I can't. It began with a U, I believe. But I think it was in a NIS release, I believe. But yeah, like the PS4 version was fine, but there was some weird bug in the physical version for the PS5, and they actually reprinted those and stated if you buy it now, it should be the fixed version. So that's actually a more recent thing of that, which is good. I like to see more of that. Please, more of that. That would be fantastic, especially with Western games, which I continue to state are usually far more broken than Japanese games. They have a way worse track record, in my opinion. Just delay until it's perfect is not a viable request in gaming, though obviously publishers will need to draw lines somewhere. It's a rough situation all around, and often the best advice is simple. Just wait. Yeah, walking to, like I said, there was a certain point where, like, well, it's been 20 years, the game might be perfect. Duke Nukem forever, you know, there is a certain point where the game is not going somewhere. You know, there's a difference between the game being done but having bugs that you need to polish out, and a game that's a gigantic fucking mess and the whole thing needs fucking work still, and there are various issues causing problems to that. I do think a lot of these kind of game situations do need more time to pay, because for the most part, other than the bugs and shit, I've heard good things about Jedi Survival. So that is a shame they didn't bother to put more time into it to release a more competent product, because they want to meet certain deadlines and stuff. I just think that's a shame. I really wish that kind of shit would have a stronger effect to encourage that. But when you got people like this, you know, giving 80s, 70s to fucking video games that probably should be getting really low scores for coming out as fucking messes, yeah, that's just, I know it is a bit more complicated with how people can, because like I said, you can make an argument on whether somebody should update a review for it being patched, because there's a two-way street on what's good or bad, and again, that can depend on different point of views, because, you know, unlike me, these people are trying to make money, so they need clicks and they need the thing to come out sooner. Well, mine, or just whenever the fuck I do it, and usually they're not relatively around when the game came out. Because a lot of times, you know, I have a lot of games. So it's not usually too often I just immediately start a game that just came out. Doesn't happen too often for me. Plus, you know, with some stuff, it's better, like with Persona, for example. Like starting Persona stuff instantly gets you like what happened with Persona 5 when it came out. A lot of people getting the videos flagged and stuff because of it being a newer game. But yeah, you know, and like I said, that also depends on moles and that, you know, I care about preserving games, so I think there is meaning and purpose to reviewing the product as is. But I can understand, especially like with PC, like PC, I think is a bigger reason to probably care about reviews with patches, because obviously most of those games are going to stay there for a longer time than, say, like console digital platforms. So that's another way to look at it too. But, it is complicated to a certain extent. I can give that at the end of the day, because it depends what system, like PC or console, and whether you're looking at an aspect of somebody who cares about the game preserved and whether they have internet access to capable of patching the game. So, we could have the whole classic, what, you don't have phone? What, you don't have internet? Like, do you not have electricity for your vacuum cleaner, guys? Oh. Oh, the whole Microsoft Xbox One thing. And, that's another video I'm thinking of doing, is because recently, Phil Spencer did a thing. I haven't actually watched it yet, but I've heard things about it. So I thought about talking about that, because I'm sure a lot of people remember one of the most wage-reducing videos I ever made was about the launch of the Xbox One. I was furious. And with a good 10, in my opinion, because it's bullshit. But that's a whole different subject. I would love to hear your opinions on this article and that. What do you think? Do you agree that they should circumvent bugs and issues some? I don't. I mean, like I said, I review stuff, and I'm not here trying to say I have a better system or I know how to review better than these people or that. But, I like to at least think I try to inform people and try to be fair to a lot of these games and give you what the game is like and shit. Like, I'm not sugarcoating shit that I experienced in the game. Like, that just seems so stupid. Like, imagine going to he used Netflix for example. I want to give a counter example. Let's go to a restaurant. You go to a restaurant and you order, let's say I order a 5-piece chicken strip with a baked potato and a chocolate milkshake. And they come back and they give me 2 pieces of bread with butter and a glass of strawberry milk with peas as a side dish. Should I just ignore the fact that I didn't get anything in my order right and give them an okay review because they gave me the food for free? Because that's how I look at this, that they're just... because they got stuff early and for free. Because generally that is a concern with a lot of these websites. Like, that's why Kotaku bitches and moans about shit like Nintendo blacklisted us. Like, because nobody's stopping Kotaku from reviewing the new Zelda game. It comes out, here's $70, now start playing and do a review. Like, nobody's stopping you. You're bitching and moaning either and or that you're not getting early access and that you're not getting it for free. Fuck you. Fuck you. Go buy the game like most of us fucking have to. It's all, look, if you get the game for free for a review, cool on you. That's fine. I'm not necessarily shitting on anyone who's in that position. Sometimes I wish I could be in that position, but that's also a lot of pressure to fucking do a review on something when I have, like, over 4,000 games I also would like to play, That's exactly why, like, in the Does It Play group that I'm in, that actually catalogs the physical build without any updates or online access, that's why, like, they started asking different publishers for review copies for the purpose of the database, and I think that's a nice idea. But and they asked the testers, which I'm a part of the tester group, on whether they, if anyone would like to, get that, and I decided not to ask for any, for the main purpose of, like I said, I generally just play what I want to play other than my Friday stream, which is a viewer voted thing. I generally do what I want. So, obviously getting a free copy again, like I said, kind of puts you pressure on you to be like, well, I need to kind of do that because they gave me that for that purpose, know what I mean? Know what I mean? So, But anyway, yeah, ultimately, I think this is just a lot of bullshit. I really do. But I love to hear your opinions, what you think. If you got any counterpoints for either side, I mean, honestly, like I said, keep it nice and clean in the debate, and we can, talk both sides here on that, like grown adults and that.